We had decided to approach it in a series of studies that were cumulative one upon the other. And the goal was to be able to do a survey of a large enough sample of New Zealand primary school teachers that we could have some confidence that the results were generalizable to that population. And the reason we chose that population is it aligned with the work we were doing. The work was developing assessments for primary school teachers to use. And so that was one of the first constraints, was you can't have a research agenda that's highly divergent from your work agenda. They have to coincide or align, otherwise you won't get it done. What we were wanting to do was a survey of opinions about the nature and purpose of assessment. And in order to do that, we looked in the literature to see, has anyone got such a device already? And our literature review said no. So we had to develop an instrument to meet that purpose, and there are generally recommended procedures for developing opinion or attitude or belief questionnaires, and we followed that through a series of studies where we devised questions in response to the literature. We tried them out on samples of students, and we did factor analysis, statistical analysis, and so we iteratively developed a questionnaire that in our third version we were able to survey a sample of over 500 primary school teachers from nearly 300 or 400 schools in New Zealand, which gave us a reasonable, robust sample to do the kind of statistical analysis we wanted to, and to give us some confidence that the results were representative of the opinions of New Zealand primary school teachers. Of course, in doing that, in the process of developing this, I was talking to people about what I was doing, and people would raise interesting questions of, when they answer your questionnaire and you're using the word assessment, how do you know what they mean by the word assessment? So in order to avoid having to predefine assessment for them, I instead gave them a list of, here's 12 different assessment practices. When you think of the word assessment, which of these things do you think of? And they ranged from a teacher-student conference to an examination. And they ticked them off, and then we used a statistical technique to group those answers, and then used another statistical technique to say, those who thought highly of group 1 versus group 2, do they have different beliefs about assessment in terms of how they answered the questionnaire? And my analysis for the doctorate said that fundamentally it didn't matter whether they grouped it as test-like things or interactive classroom things. How they answered the questionnaire about assessment was pretty much the same. Not identical, but the differences were within chance. So we concluded that the kind of assessment practice they were using to define assessment didn't change their opinions about the nature and purpose of assessment.